Hello, this is Ray Lee with Speedboat Magazine here with another episode of the Boats and Bros podcast. Again, here with my bro, Myrick Coil, and we've got today Nick Petersen, the propeller guru of Mercury Racing. What's up, Nick?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
So, what's going on in the propeller world?
Man, we've got a lot of stuff going on. It's been an exciting year. Got a couple new prop projects going on. It's always been fun during race season the last couple of years, getting to work with guys like Myrick and all the other race teams on getting their props set up for all the different classes. Got Lotto coming up right around the corner, so we've got 5 or 6 sets of cleavers for guys that need those for the shootouts, and otherwise it's been business as usual, which is just always craziness this time of year.
Yeah, so right now you're 8 to 10 weeks out if somebody orders a set of props on a custom build?
About 7 to 8, yeah.
Yeah. So that's always the question that I get asked. Then I text Nick and he goes, "Yep, that's about where we're at." So that's the way I spit it. And then I'll order a set and then it was funny today, Holzhauer, just a set of outboard cleavers. He said, "Hey, are those props about done?" And I went back and looked at when I ordered them. It wasn't even 4 weeks yet. So it's funny how people think you tell them 8 weeks and then 3 weeks later they're already like, "How are them done?"
Yeah. Yeah, it just takes a long time, and unfortunately, man, I love trying to put stuff on the shelf, but by the time I do, the diameters that people want change, and they sit on the shelf for 3 years, and it just takes a while. I mean, we spend anywhere from 15 to 18 hours just machining a single prop. So by the time we get 50 or 60 of them on the build list, it adds up pretty quick.
So 15 to 18 hours of machining for one single prop. That's wild.
Mm-hmm.
I would have guessed it maybe even longer.
Well, then the guys hand grind them to get any imperfections out, and then they go out to polish, and then they come back to polish, and we cut the cups down, clean everything up, box it up. So at the end of the day, it's at least 24, 25 hours.
Wow. That's cool. One of the things I remember when I was at Fond du Lac last year for the Sheboygan race, when we were out there working on one of the engines, is it's whatever time at night, 8, 9 o'clock at night, and you can hear the machine and they're running even when you're not there, which is wild to think that things in there just cutting away. How many machines are there?
There's
3.
So it's a testament to the guys that do all the modeling and programming work. I mean, you think every quarter inch of diameter size, every pitch, every rake, every horsepower thickness, they've got to come up with a complete CAD model and all new programs for every single one of those. So we've got a couple of guys that's pretty much all they do all day, every day, just work on the CNC prop.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because we're constantly changing something like, let's try this, but then I don't think of it that there's some guy that has to sit there and draw it or whatever. It's just like just knock an eighth off of every one of them.
Just get it done.
I'll make it a quarter inch smaller.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I got to say, for those of us that have been lucky enough to be at the Mercury Racing facility and even main plant, the propeller shops in both areas are just very impressive. Watching your guys do what they do by hand and grind those things, it's truly an art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 2 totally different worlds, and I mean, there's 2 different worlds within our little prop shop, between the really clean, nice CNC area and then the actual hand grinding area, which you guys do keep really clean, but it's really old school. I mean, they've been doing it the same way for 40, 50 years. It's all blueprinting prop templates and doing things the old-fashioned way. And they have a lot of new machinery and robots at the main facility across town that they utilize. But yeah, our guys, just 20 guys and a couple of gals that they're just doing it the old school way all day, every day.
Yeah.
I got a propeller out of the box yesterday it was actually I can't say pontoon, but a tri-tune, and had a 400 on it. And inside the hub, I noticed there was weights. So it's a way of balancing the propeller now, and just something different.
Yep. So that's another part of the process that they're doing across town for automation, is rather than a guy hogging off a little bit of material on a blade that might be a little bit heavier than the others, they have a whole machine that's bespoke for Mercury propellers that spins a prop kind of like a car rim, and laser guides and tells them exactly how many grams of weight need to go in that specific area. So
cool.
it's pretty cool, pretty ingenious, totally different way of doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, that is neat. I mean, you got that big old hub. I think it was an inertia was the prop that I saw that had that on it. So anyway, the one of the things I've also noticed is how much bigger you're having to get in your pitches on like your center console, since these things are getting so fast with the 500s and things like that. So I know that earlier in the year,
especially on the big Rev X's across town that they do for the 400 and 350 Verado. I mean, I think they go up to 33 or 35 pitch on those, just because it's got a 2.08 ratio and 6,400 RPM. So
yeah,
it adds up really quick.
Yeah, and then I know that we were running into a problem earlier in the year on the boats that were going over 90, that we were 27.5 was the max that we were running into. And so are you making them bigger yet?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The project that we're working on right now, we just started testing out some prototypes and want to make sure that the diameter and the barrel length and all the parameters are exactly what all the builders want before we finalize on the tooling. But as soon as we do that, we'll pull the trigger on more tooling for that product line.
And the tooling means the actual mold that you dump the hot stainless into? Is that what that means?
The wax mold.
The wax
mold.
It'll
be a big, liquid cooled steel wax mold, aluminum wax mold. That forms all the wax mold. Usually takes about 3 minutes for all the wax to settle inside. They let it cool off for a couple minutes, and they pull out a wax propeller, and then that turns into the mold through the ceramic shell process, which then gets melted out, and then that's what you pour your stainless into.
Wow, that's cool. And then when the hot stainless hits it, all the wax melts out, and then you get your casting to where you can then start whittling on it with a machine.
Yeah, so we'll have big ovens that they actually melt the wax out of ahead of time. So
I see.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you have the wax, the ceramic goes around it, and it gets hard, and then you melt the wax out, and then you have a casting. And so what is it? Does it hit like a vibrating machine, or what does it do to break the ceramic off of the casting, or is it you just hit it with a hammer, or what do you do?
Yep. No, there's a vibratory machine, and they get shot blasted as well. You got to take all that ceramic out of it, or else they'll really clog up all the grinding belts and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's the whole process, and that's all at that foundry, Plant 98 across town.
Yeah,
so that's one of the biggest benefits that we have at Mercury Racing is getting to leverage those multi-million-dollar facilities across town. And man,
it's an amazing process to witness. I mean, it's just like molten steel that's just getting poured in.
Steel prop foundry is, there's only a handful of them in the whole world. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's got to be the biggest thing, is finding the formula of mixing however you do that. I mean, I know that there's different grades of stainless, but then, what do they add ore to them if they want to make them stronger or stuff like that? I mean, did you go to school for this, or did somebody else go to school for this?
Somebody else definitely went to school for that. But yeah, they're measuring the temperatures of the molten steel down to the single-digit degree before it gets poured, and it all has to be exactly spot on, or else it won't cool right, and you'll end up with porosity and pits and cracks and everything that you don't want in a prop.
Yeah, that's wild.
So speaking of that, I mean, your predecessor, Nick, was Scott Reichow, and did an amazing job while he was there. And he retired several years ago, and you've done an amazing job filling his shoes, which were awfully big. How did you get to learn so much in your relatively young age?
Well, I've been so blessed and fortunate that, Steve Miller and Scott brought me on, and I had 2.5 years under Scott, which was fantastic. Luckily, things were going really well with the economy, and we could afford to bring on another headcount, being myself. We got to work under Scott for 2.5 years, and my job wasn't to run the business at that point. Obviously, it was just to be a sponge and learn everything that I could from him and everyone else on board. So that obviously helped a ton. And then otherwise, man, I'm still learning every single day. I mean, that's just the world of prop.
Yeah.
Well,
there's so much to learn about it.
Nick, when you and I were talking at the Bago Big Bet in Wisconsin, which was the event in your backyard, we were talking a lot that you and Myrick communicate pretty regularly based on, number one, Performance Boat Center and all the customers that need propellers from them for their boats, but also the AMCON race team. I mean, Tyler has so many sets of props, right? And everything has a specific use for it.
Yeah. 11 new sets this year. So,
wow. On top of what he had before.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole thing in racing, which it's hard to, and I don't know, maybe Nick will tell us how he figured out, but we try to run them on the thin side, but then they fatigue enough over time that they start to give you the scary feeling like you potentially could throw a blade, because we're very abusive to them. We run high X dimensions, we're using them as a surface drive. And a lot of the times, these crazy throttlemen, they don't lift when we're out of the water. And you come back in and it fatigues the propeller and, potentially could take you out of a race. So that's one of the things, I know propellers are expensive and the, consumer price, $13,000 a set. But when you think it's something that could take you out of a race that cost you $50,000 to get there and have your crew and your rooms and all that, it's not the, it's not the straw that broke the camel's back and the budget. So it's like, you kind of like to after every few years, like maybe refresh the inventory. So that's what we did this year.
Got it. So Nick, I mean, every inch, every tweak matters. It makes a difference. How do you know the proper way to go based on what they're looking for?
I really just have to work with the data that they give me. I mean, Myrick's so spot on, and he'll spend hours and hours looking over the data and everything, and he tells me which way he wants it to go, and I can say, well, if you want a little bit more RPM, we'll do this. If you want a little bit more lift, we can go this direction. So it's really a partnership back and forth, and it's pure 50-50 from my perspective.
Yeah, it's taking in the information. I think a lot of it is similar to like Pete, at Skater. I mean, it's not like you see him out running boats all the time, but you can tell him how a boat feels and he'll change the boat and then the boat's better. So similar to propeller, you give them the input like, man, it walks around in the back, and they'll go, okay, maybe you should go down and rate because it really makes the blade a little bit smaller. Or say the boat is it's not accelerating that well, you can describe it better, Nick, but you could take some cup out of it and it frees the propeller up and lets the engine get up in the RPMs, but you might lose a couple of mile an hour on the big end and things like that. So, yeah, it's tough.
I get to work with so many different people on a day-to-day basis. I mean, bass boat fishermen and cry-tune guys that just want to go out and have fun with their family and tear it up a little bit on the weekends, to the hardcore offshore racers. I mean, when you do it 24/7 and you deal with really passionate people, all that kind of rubs off on you, and you end up learning a whole lot in a short period of time. So it's been a lot of fun.
Well, that, and you do some racing though too. I see a boat behind you in the background there.
I do, yeah. I've been getting pretty heavied up into the drag racing scene for outboards, and I got my little SUV with a 2.5 on it behind me.
That's badass.
So that's been a lot of fun too.
Yeah, I watched some videos of you. I think it was probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, making some runs. That was neat to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So explain that drag racing circuit that you guys race on, Nick.
Sure, yeah. So I race with the UMPBA, which is the Upper Midwest Powerboat Association, which is a really cool organization. It originally started in Minnesota. It's nowadays mostly Wisconsin-based. And all 4 of our races this season will be in Wisconsin. But we have a really interesting set of rules, and it's kind of run what you brung, and it's speed index classes versus having to have weight restrictions, what kind of engines you can run, and all that. We just have speed indexes. So it starts at 65, goes 75, 85, 95, 105, and unlimited. And that's what speed you're allowed to run in 800 feet. So I'll run in the 95 class. If you go above 95.0, you're broken out and you lost the round.
So is that done with GPS or radar?
Yep. So we actually have transponders that go on the boat. Use the MyLap system, which is a new add-on for last season. So they're able to monitor everything in real time. They can even call the races off the MyLap, which is pretty cool. But otherwise, it's just double round elimination. Usually get 10 to 12 guys in my class, and it's just a whole lot of fun.
What bracket class do you race in your race boat?
In the 95 class.
Nice.
So I usually run 93, 94 mile an hour and 800 feet.
And how's your season going?
Really well. I haven't lost a round yet. We're halfway through. So it's been a lot of fun. I've been learning a lot. I've got a guy that helps me out with my engine building and engine tuning named Chad. But man, writing fuel curves and tearing the motor down every couple of weeks and tuning the props for it. It's been a whole lot of fun. I mean, doing that after hours, hanging out with the guys, working on their other 3 or 4 boats, whatever we've got at the location on a given day, talking smack, having a couple of beers.
That's cool.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, the whole idea of still running a 2.5 is like dreamland to me, because when you guys take the cowlings off and it's like a power head and a fuel rail and an intake, I'm like so jealous after working all this stuff.
Simple as it gets. Yeah,
yeah, I love it. We were talking about actually tonight, Jason Billmeyer. We were looking at just some different boats and online, and we were talking about how cool would it be if we had some 2.5s to put on the 28, because we're putting 300Rs, and we were like, well, the consumers, the guys wouldn't want to buy it as much, but man, it would be cool.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you talk about getting maybe 200 hours before you got to replace the block and do the rings and bearings and all that stuff. I mean, I love the modern motors too, and they definitely have their place for the consumer running, but
I do too.
10,500 RPM in 6 seconds.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, there's times that I watch them dynos, and it's just like, it's another level, and you're watching your phone squinting like, oh my
Wait
gosh.
for it to blow.
Yeah. It's the best sound in the world, though. A 2-stroke wrapped out. And then the smell, too. Nothing like a cold 2-stroke smell.
So, Nick, do your competitors complain about because you have theoretically a competitive edge?
Here and there. It hasn't been too bad, though. I mean, I help them out here and there, too, if I can work on their props a little bit. And other than that, I mean, what I have in my boat behind me isn't anything fancy. It's just the basic, started out life as a 280, 2.5, and loved it up a little bit and went racing. So it's nothing. Yeah,
you don't have to tell anybody what brand of propeller you run on yours either. We'll keep that top secret.
We'll keep that between us.
Custom CNC.
Yeah.
You guys have an event coming up that you guys are part of, also in your backyard, the Sheboygan Offshore Race. Tell us about that.
Man, I want to say that was an awesome event last year. I've been at Mercury a little over 6 years now. That's the first time we've had multiple race teams at a single day come for plant tours, be able to show everyone around. People from all different generations. We have the T-Bolds in, guys that are mostly poker run guys, tunnel boat people, and obviously all the offshore guys. So being able to get everyone together, give them plant tours, and then have a race in our backyard, being able to see that kind of racing too in Wisconsin, is definitely a special weekend.
Yeah, that's what was cool about it to me, because there were so many old vintage boats even in the pits that were, that I think a couple of them used to be Bill Seabolds and stuff like that. But then you get on a charter bus and go out to the plant and, walk around. For a lot of people, that was the first time ever being there. And it was really neat for me too.
Especially coming off of COVID and having 450R and 500R projects, and the plant had to be really under wraps, to then opening everything up to the public and having a couple hundred people walk through it was a special day, that's for sure.
Yeah, because that's a super rare opportunity, right? Not, you guys don't offer that very often, and for it to be open last year and just have teams and other guests go through there, is quite something to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's been times when the plant's really been walled off in certain sections because they don't want people seeing anything.
Yeah.
So to have it back to being wide open and be able to show everybody all the different lines. I mean, a lot of people don't know that we make the V12 600 long block at racing and the gear case for that. Still making all the QC4s, obviously the 500, different gear cases, obviously the prop department. So for a small plant, there's a lot going on.
Big kids, man. Just sitting there like the door has a squeak to it, and
you think?
Yeah. That I remember going to Mercury Racing it would have probably been like 2004, 2005, my first trip there. We were actually got sponsored by them in the Super Cat class, and Dave Cook was there, and I think it was Al was there, and then Rick Mackey took us around, and we got to go through the door with the card to where you can go into like R&D. And I actually saw the Verado before it was released, but it didn't know what I was looking at. I'm just like, because it really didn't look like it did, with the cowling on and everything. You tell it was an inline six with all these probes and stuff hanging out of the side of it and all that neat stuff. And you're like, and it's not like they talked about it. You just walk by and you're like, oh, I wonder what that is, But then there's another project that you're trying to figure out what was that too, And it's by the time you walk through there, you're like, man, there was some cool stuff in there. I wish I could have hung out in there longer, but they made sure I didn't.
Right.
But it was neat. That was my first trip there. It's actually a little sign in the front yard that said, "Welcome Bacardi Silver Racing" or something like that when we came in, and it was cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Nick, when we spoke, the Sheboygan race is in what, 2 weeks, Myrick?
Yeah, August 8th, I think.
Yeah. And you'll be around for the pre-stuff, but you won't be there on race day because you're racing yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's Saturday. We have a race pretty local. It's in Stevens Point, so that's about an hour west of me, and Sheboygan's an hour east. But I'll be around Thursday, Friday, and Sunday, so looking forward to it, that's for sure.
Yeah, because I think in Class 1, I think we raced both days if I saw the thing correctly. But in Super Cat, we just race one day, I think.
Out of all the questions you've had from everybody, Nick, is there something that's stumped you?
In terms of prop questions?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man, I think it happens on a weekly basis. I mean, we get so many different off-the-wall questions dealing with military diesel applications with fixed drives, and there's that University of Michigan electric project that they're putting together for the shootout. I mean, that's something totally new.
The electric boat thing?
Yeah, there's the foiling E1 race boats. I mean, that's totally new.
What kind of propeller does one of those boats run?
They're running our little Spitfire XPs.
Really?
What like a 115 horse gear case on it.
Okay, so what kind of pitch, diameter, stuff like that? I mean, ballpark.
13.5 by 16 or 17 pitch.
How many blades?
4.
Yeah.
So from the cowling on down, it's similar to like our 115 for all that hardware with an electric power head on top. So it's pretty cool. I mean, it's, again, always something new every week, and just keep learning.
Steve Curtis was telling me about that, and because he was over there, and he might have been in charge of like a captain for like Team Brady, or I forget, it was Team somebody that he was in charge of.
I think it's the Will Smith team.
Oh, was it Will Smith?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he was telling me like, you don't. They basically had rods there with like hooks on them, because if somebody's getting shocked, don't grab them. You got, because it's like the amount of voltage or amperage, whatever it is like crazy. And, and then you're mixing it with water, and you've like seen a Tesla car hit salt water thing, so same thing you don't want to happen with a boat. And they're all carbon fiber, so they conduct electricity and all that stuff. So it's wild to think of all the new fail safes that they have to come up with in this, new kind of style of racing, being that electric. It was funny to listen to Steve tell it. He definitely told it in a more animated way with, his accent, and we're only going 58 miles an hour kind of stuff.
Yeah. I was talking to him about that too in Boyne, and he was saying the same thing to me about that. But then I also asked him, based on what we had talked about, Myrick, about different drivers that he raced with, and he gave you really good kudos, said you were probably one of the best he's ever been with. So especially running with him in Cocoa Beach, where he didn't lift, and you had to take it.
Well, that's the only way we were going to catch up with them super fast boats that we were dealing with. It's like, don't lift, man. This is the only place we can make up time.
Yeah.
And but yeah, he did a great job. I mean, he definitely has no fear, but still has the feel of the boat, even, hopping in it for that first time that that day before we're going to qualifying. And it's funny, like when you've done it a lot and you do it with somebody new, you kind of look over and he's like, "You good?" You're like, "Yeah, you good?" It's like trying to figure each other out. It's like, yeah, I'm good. So should we keep going? Well, I don't think so. I feel pretty good about it. And you're like, okay, it's kind of like an awkward, like first date kind of thing, it's when you're out there like risking your life and hoping the guy does good. But I knew he would. And so did Tyler. That's why they picked him.
Yeah, no, I mean, Tyler had two of the best subs that he could get. Is Tyler better now? Is he ready to race?
Yeah. So he said that he's not as great as he would hoped, but he says he's going. I'm going no matter what. So
both boats.
Yes.
Nice.
As far as I know, yes. This was a week ago. So about 8 days ago, we had a talk. He came over the dock on Saturday, and we were talking about it. And I was actually, when he, I said, "So how's your back?" He's like, and I was like, "Ooh, that's not like, oh man, it's great, kind of thing." And
right.
When you're getting the shit kicked out of you, which Sheboygan can do that. I mean, I couldn't believe it last year on Sunday. I mean, Saturday was slick, and then a slight breeze out of the east makes it stack up in that little bay, and you're just like, what the hell am I doing out here? Because they get so close together. I mean, it's just one after another. But
yeah, it's crazy.
But we just put the low rake stuff on and let her eat. So when we talk about that, like, for example, when I talk to Nick and I'm like, okay, we're going to build some propellers for rough water. Well, usually when we go down in pitch, say like in Supercat, if we go to like a 28 or 29 or 30, we'll usually go to a lower rake because we're not looking for that top speed, perfect bite. We're just trying to maintain the boat better. And the lower rake usually lets the boat be under control a little bit better. So
yeah,
for all these propeller gurus that are listening in.
Nick, what do you think is the best propeller that Mercury Racing's come out with since, say, the Bravo?
Ooh, man, that's a good question. I mean, the CNCs have really changed the game and how a propeller is built and how we build them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you think back in the day in the 90s, before we had CNC machines, we were still building cleavers that big in the same dimensions, and guys were talking them by hand. They would take the 20 hours that they do in the CNC machines, and they would spend 24 hours by hand grinding them.
Yeah.
So being able to build props that are that precise and replicable was a big game changer for us. And obviously it played really well into, the consumer catamaran, especially with the outboard market. Obviously the racers now, it's been awesome to work with all the different teams and dialing in all the different boats in that setup.
Yeah.
But man, since I've been around, I mean, things like the Rev 4 and the Ventera have been really hot sellers for us.
Is that your number one? Is that your number one seller, the Rev 4?
The Ventera is now.
Oh, really?
Replaced all the Rev 4s last spring with the Venteras. So which is basically
neighbors
a Rev 4. Yeah.
Ray loves chaos. Ray loves this shit. His house always quiet. Neighbor kid just came in, put the dog in a bedroom, and left. Now the dog's pissed. Hey! I'm so sorry. Hey, get the dog out of here. Just barking nonstop. Yeah, want to see? There we go. Well, Mom's wrong. There we go. It was Nikki and Cash and other kids.
Never a dull moment.
No. Not when you have the neighbor's dog because they're in Greece on vacation, and then the neighbor's grandkids staying here too. And then Munir's going out of town tomorrow, and so his daughter Kinley's coming over to stay. Oh, man. And I'm not bitching. I'm just saying when you're trying to do a podcast and there's just shit hitting the fan, you're like, what in the world? I remember at the beginning of these when we first started it. I think we've done 40 of them now. It was quiet. You couldn't hear nothing. No kid walked through. And then now it's just like they go through like it's no big deal. The dad doing something. So anyway, we were talking about the Ventura being the number one seller and, you know, the CNC being such a game changer, which in my opinion, it really is. But what a lot of people don't know is when they think about racing and say, for example, all of this over the past so many years where we've done very well on Supercat, it's all Mercury Racing propellers, unmodified. It's what Nick sends us. And people are like, oh, yeah, you probably spend so much. No, it's out of, if it's damaged, send it back, you know, which is rare. But, you know, but it's all the guys at Mercury Racing doing it. And that propeller is on the boat, untouched by us. So pretty cool to be able to do that.
Well, let me ask you this, Nick. Myrick, same question to you. Which propeller in the last 10, 15 years do you think has been the biggest game changer in performance?
Well, it depends what boat.
Yeah, like let's say catamarans, right?
Yeah, the cleaver, because the CNC cleaver, because you wouldn't believe how some of our boats feel. Say that I put a Max 5 on it, which, you know, is a good propeller. The boat feels a little flightier. It just doesn't tame it down as much. So with the way that the cleaver works, you know, and even gets on plane, it's just a game changer in the way that the offshore or the outboard catamaran runs. And I think without that propeller, I don't think they would have been as popular as they are. The things that made the outboard catamaran so good was the Verada, the 400R, and the CNC propeller. Because without those two things, we wouldn't have been able to make the boats go fast, because you can't keep them under control and you didn't have the reliable power to do it. So once those two came out and then made it up with the boats that, you know, got lighter, got to that 5,500 pounds, 6,000 pounds, and you could keep them under control, then people started to like them. And that's why they became so popular.
You agree, Nick?
Yeah, it's been kind of a saving grace as all the new motors have come out. You know, we think about what are we going to do when the 500R comes out? What are we going to do for cleavers for that? Well, we just come up with a 500R thickness curve. We change the dimensions for whatever the boats want, and you know, whether it's stepping up a little bit in diameter or 15 rake to 18 rake, we'll take the customer feedback and just be able to build them. So having those Lego building blocks, if you will, and being able to swap things in and out, and it being so interchangeable, really opens up the bandwidth for running those cleavers on all sorts of different applications and all sorts of different engines.
Totally agree.
Is there a limit to what you guys can do?
Man, I mean, we start with these big, thick casting blanks that they're all machined out of.
Yeah.
So as long as it fits within that blank, we can do it. You know, I've had a couple requests over the last 3-4 years for really, really big blade area, long cord length that we haven't been able to quite fit in. But man, other than that, I mean, we could do round tip, any kind of cupping that the customer would like, and all the different horsepower thickness curves, and that's just all machined right in. So, and that's not me doing it. That's not the prop grinders necessarily doing it. That's all the really, really smart people that we have in engineering doing all the modeling and programming for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried to order a 15 3/4 the other day, and he said, "Nope, you can't have that in the 500 cut. You got to have 15." Yep. I think 15 5/8 is as big as I was allowed.
Yeah, yeah. So our blank for the outboards will go up 15 5/8.
Yeah.
Nick, are you kind of like that Russell Crowe movie where it's like a beautiful mind? Somebody gives you a boat and power, and the formula just kind of goes through your head, and then you know what to spit out.
Man, I think of myself, I'm kind of a one-trick pony. I mean, I'm not that great at that many things in life, but like I said earlier, I mean, I've been doing just props. I've been fortunate enough to just do props for the last 6.5 years, nonstop, all day, every day.
Yeah.
So they, you know, and my bosses too, they let me just focus in on that stuff and let me do what I do in the prop world. And man, if you're going to do something for 6.5 years all day, every day, you're going to get good at it one way or another.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I think of it a lot as when you talk to Nick about what you're going to do, and he can maybe give you feedback on another experience that he's had. That's the biggest thing that comes into play, is when you're like, yeah, we tried that and it wasn't so good, or that prop wasn't as dependable because of this, that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
it's their experience.
Getting down to the basics. I mean, about 4 years ago, I just started writing everything down. So I've got journals and notebooks that I can look back on if somebody wants to know, well, what did this prop do? I've got the serial number for my prop. What did you guys do
have
with the cup height? I will sell them off when I retire, I think. That'll be my pension.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Just being able to look back and stuff, and being able to work with people like Mike Griffith. If I do get stumped, I'll ask Mike, and 99 times out of 100 he'll have the answer. So having other experts around me like that is a big help, of course.
Yeah.
People that have done it for a while and have different experiences.
Well, our last podcast episode was Myrick kind of walking us through a day in his life. You said you do this all day, every day. Kind of walk us through what your regular day is. Like, say, today. What happens during
I have a regular day.
Yeah, right.
But I'll start off every morning. I do my backorder report, quote unquote, for our shop manager, and that just tells him what do we get for orders the day before that he needs to start scheduling for and working through production. So it's just kind of a mock production build plan for him. From there, man, it can be anything, whether it's meeting with boat builders or customers or our teams across the country within Mercury, just taking phone calls all day long. I usually get 30 or 40 phone calls a day. And again, that could be Myrick or Randy Sisnam, or it could be a guy down in Fond du Lac with a bass boat. So just working with all different people on propellers, couple meetings every day, project related, working on tooling and casting, and just ideating new projects, working with our marketing team as always. Running around in the prop shop, I'll take a lot of customers' props in, which we don't do officially, but if somebody wants a little bit of a cup height change or a ding taken out of a blade, I'll still take them in. So it's a lot of hands-on. I'm running down to tipping and receiving and bringing all the props down to the prop shop, telling the guys what they need to do, and getting everything set in that regard. So it's a lot of back and forth between the prop shop and our shipping department as well, and just getting everything done. It's a lot of different roles that I have to fill at Mercury, going from engineering meetings to marketing meetings to sales meetings, forecasting for dollars for month by month, and all that kind of stuff. So a little bit of everything.
Some stuff not as exciting as others. As seeing the finished product going out the door, getting a call from a guy that goes, man, it went 3 miles an hour faster. That was badass,
Yep. Yeah, I tell, again, whether it's a bass boat guy or if it's Myrick, I'll tell him, yeah, just let me know how it does. Love to hear the feedback, and whether it's good or bad, because we'll both learn either way. So, but yeah, it's a lot of reports and paperwork, but at the end of the day, sometimes I get to do stuff like this with you guys too. So
yeah, well, it's got to be a wild thing, right? With the popularity of the big center consoles going from 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 engines at a time, and you got to match up the propellers to each of those. And how does that work? I mean, are they just kind of set together?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the customer. I mean, some have tried and true packages that they've been selling for years now, and they kind of have always ordered the same thing, which doesn't really happen for long in our business with new engines and new hull designs coming out and new prop lines that they want to try. So it's pretty cyclical. We'll go through a period of, I know what I need to order. We built 3 or 4 of these boats. We know what it's going to run, to, all right, this is going to be our first 500R boat. What do we need to do? And so, myself or, Mike Griffiths and the rest of our engineering team will work with them on test props and getting props in and out of the factory for them to work with and try out. But yeah, it made the last 12 months pretty exciting too with the new 500Rs out there. So lots of changes, and I mean, there's lots of new hull designs as well, which is exciting, and always keeps it interesting.
I'm constantly hitting up Nick. So do you have something like this maybe sitting on a shelf? He's like, no. He's like, yeah. He goes, I wish. Let me call Grip, see if he's got anything. And then from there, we were like, okay, well, we got to order it and try it out, but you got to plan ahead. Well, it's funny, though, when you're talking about it. So, for example, Cigarette uses a lot of Max 5s. Nortec, I see a lot of Bravo 1 FS, and I see a Bravo 1 FS on a lot of Sensations. And, then the MTIs, you see the Ventura on them. So it depends on the hull for a lot of the different manufacturers. What makes, I've tried Max 5s on MTIs just to see what it would do, and they weren't as good as the Ventura. So it was like just one of those things that you got to try out because, whether, it's Randy or whoever telling you, yeah, this is the best. Sometimes you don't know until you try, but, they've done their homework.
Yeah, some customers are convinced, a 4-blade has to be the best or a 5-blade has to be the best, and you just got to kind of work with them on that. So,
yeah.
So do you have to knock down misconceptions a lot?
Yeah, certainly if they want a 4-blade and that's all that they're going to purchase, we'll find the best 4-blader for them. But yeah, these days with all the different prop designs, some 3-bladers act like 4-bladers, some 4-bladers act like 3-bladers. So someone that says, well, I always grew up thinking that a 3-blader is the best for top end speed and a 4-blader would be best for the mid range. Nowadays that's not true. We have close to 20 different prop lines just out of Mercury Racing. They're all designed to do a little bit different things. So
I know you don't see a lot of them that much anymore because the stern drive V bottoms aren't as that popular. Like, not for example, the Fountain would blow me away. The 700 with a 6, and it had the 6-blade propeller. I was like, that's the coolest look on the back of a boat ever. Is that 6-blade? I think it was 15-degree rig, like 17, 35, 16, and it was, or 15. Whatever it is, but I was like, man, a 42 Fountain with 6s with 2 6-bladers on it's one of the sexiest looking prop setups there is. And I've tried them on other boats like Outer Limits and stuff like that, and they just, Mark had it on his 52, and Nick built me a set of 17 39 15s for Mark's 52 Outer Limits with 1350s, and it would feel great like in the mid-range, but it lost a little bit of top end. And talk about trying to dock a boat with a 6-blader on, there is zero reverse. Like, you put it in reverse and it just does not react because there's just not enough. The blade isn't designed to go backwards. So then when you have all them blades there, the water just can't make it into it, and it just sits there and cavitates in reverse. And it's one of the hardest things to put in a slip with a 6-blade propeller on it.
That's interesting.
It's wild. Yeah. It's wild. He put the same diameter, same pitch, same everything in a 5-blade, backs right up, all this stuff. You're just like, wow, that's wild.
Do you ever wake up from a dream and let's try this, and you have a brainchild of a propeller idea? How long does that take for you to have a prototype in your hands and try it on a boat?
A long time.
Does it?
Yeah, I've got a couple prop projects on right now that we've been working on for 2.5 years. So it's very slow moving, which is a good thing because we make sure all the bases are covered. It's what's going to work for the customers and things like that. And we can move fast, but it takes at least a year and a half to get a prop line launched from start to finish.
Yeah.
So
I was actually fortunate enough to run us on our 300Rs when we put them on at Lake X with the Performance Boat Center 32 race boat, some through-hub propellers that I still don't see them out on the market yet. And they were super badass. It's just the process of getting it all done is, not there yet.
Yeah, that's one of them that's been about 2.5 years. But you go from concept to starting to put prototypes together to doing all the testing and sending the props all over the country for testing, tweaking them, sending them back, tweaking them, sending back, designing the tooling for them, getting the tooling built, which takes 2 or 3 months alone, working it into production, getting castings, that takes another 2 or 3 months, scanning and measuring the castings, making sure they're accurate and exactly what you want them to be. But it takes a long time, but at the end of the day, it's what we got to do.
Yeah. With being so accessible, I imagine with all that wait time, you hear a lot of impatient people.
Yeah, it's been nice this year, especially. I've been saying that a lot. I mean, peak COVID, we had 20+ week lead time on props, and now we're back down to 3 to 4 on the cast stuff. CNCs are still a little bit out there, but man, you tell a basketball guy he's not going to have a prop for 4 months. That doesn't sit very well. And trying to work with OEM boat builders that have $1 million boats on the line and saying, I'll work with you, but you need to give me your prop orders, 5 months ahead of time. It was a big challenge. So it's been nice. Obviously, things are not quite as quick as they used to be in terms of all the orders that we're getting and things like that, and taking a little bit of a decline this year. But the prop business is still strong, but we're able to maintain, and we haven't had to shrink our workforce in the prop shop, which has been really nice.
Yeah. Well, something you said earlier, with the new 500s and that beefy outdrive that it has now, the R drive, are you able to push the propellers more towards the ragged edge and kind of take more chances?
I think it depends on the customer and what they want to do, and the builder and how aggressive they want to set it up.
Yeah.
Obviously, when we talk about 500s, it's all consumer, and the builders want to build boats that are reliable and safe for the consumer. Now, they might go out and jack the engines up and put a really big set of wheels on them, but that'll be up to the customer. And every now and then I'll get those phone calls when those guys want to do that, especially for something like the shootout.
Yeah.
But, the builders have been pretty darn conservative and make sure the boats are staying safe and getting a regular prop schedule together and regular prop sets that they order every month or two, however fast they're building boats. And, yeah, it's a little bit nerve-wracking dealing with those guys that do want to jack them up and run them out like crazy, dealing with. Man, the guy that comes to mind is Duke down in Florida with a 140-mile-an-hour 28 skater. I mean, you hate to tell a guy a set of props that could kill him, but he ended up running, safe run. He knows what he's doing down there driving the boat, so God bless him. But it does get a little bit nerve-wracking.
What's crazy to me is these quint engine boats. It's funny when a guy will call and it was like, hey man, I'm just looking for a little bit more out of my boat. And whether it's like a 50V or had a customer the other day with a 39 Nortec with 4 V10s on it, 400 V10s. I was like, this isn't something like an outboard catamaran where I can just go grab 2 props off the wall. You're talking 4 or 5. They got to be the right rotation. And the fact that they're all going to be the same is tough, because you'd have stacks of 5 propellers just for one boat. And then, okay, I want 2 sets. So then there's 10 propellers. It's crazy when you think about that and the amount of propellers that have to be made for these. Well, for example, MTI is like 50 boats a year now. So each, at a minimum,
that.
Or even more than that, 60 maybe. Yeah.
I think 70, 80.
Oh yeah. So and then most of those boats on an average are probably, 4 engine boats because the 50's a 5. So each one of they, so how many propellers is that? 50 is that's like hundreds and hundreds of propellers just for MTI. And same with Nortec. I think there's 70, 80 boats, and most of those are 3 or 4 engine boats. And it's mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's been a crazy upward trend for our little business. I mean, man, back around 2008, 2009, Mercury Racing Propellers was only building 2,500 props a year. And now we're
building... What'd you build last year?
Over 14,000.
Wow.
So, and it really went up a lot post like 2015. I mean, 2015, we only did 7,500. Yeah. So it's doubled in the last, 8 or 9 years.
That's cool. That's a lot of propellers.
Because of the center consoles, like you said. Everything's gone from twin engine, with cigarette, for example, inboard, to 4 or 5, even 6 engine outboards. And man, we've even got to the point. We've done a couple of quint engine center consoles with cleavers on them now that are running over 100. So it's
I tell you what,
mind-boggling.
I've got customers who want to do that, but I am scared to death to order 5 propellers that might be wrong for a boat. Yep. It's different when they're $2,500 a piece compared to $6,000 a piece, you know,
Yep.
and you got 5 of them. Like, okay, this could be a $30,000 mistake.
Mm-hmm.
So you must be like a really good secret keeper, right? I mean, I'd imagine like other race teams are like, oh, hey, what's MCon running on their boat?
Yeah,
I'll
but
tell
I've
them.
had to learn that. I've had to learn that over the years for sure. You know.
Yeah.
And I appreciate being the middleman and not telling them, because I do get those questions for sure.
Absolutely,
So
right?
it's just
Yeah.
part
I
of
bet it'd be smart for somebody to try that. But I'll hunt Nick down.
All right. So other than Myrick, who blows up your phone the most?
it. Man, I think over the years the most probably Bob Teague.
Yeah.
And in a good way. I mean,
Right.
Yeah. That guy buys some
it's slowed down a
propellers,
little bit over the last couple of years. But
Yeah.
man, when I first started, I'd probably talk to Bob every day, at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah.
Not 2 or 3 times a day.
And it's always great
So
to
he
see
was-
you guys interact with one another because you guys know so much. It's almost like dueling propellers. You know, you guys
Yep.
are spitballing facts and figures at each other. It's like, it's a very impressive. And what's he have? Like, is he like the most, the biggest dealer of propellers outside of
For
you
the
guys
higher end
directly?
stuff, for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah,
the
well,
Mac
it's
5.
crazy. Sometimes I'll call Mercury and they'll like, damn it, I need it. And then I'll call Bob. He's like, oh, yeah, I got that. I'm like,
Yeah. When do you need it?
yeah.
And he's always been a big proponent of our Mac 5 prop. You know, a lot of the R&D work was done with Bob on that
Mhm.
product line. And he's the only dealer in the country that's willing to carry a stocking inventory of those props. You know, he usually
No, for
takes
sure. When he set up
50
my
or
boat with the
60
new
on hand.
600, yeah, he set me up with the
Mhm.
Max 5, and it runs
Yep.
great.
It's a good
Yep.
propeller. That's
Mhm.
what's on our
Oh, yeah,
single
Bob was-
engine 280.
Bob was one of the guys when I first started that I really glommed onto and tried to learn everything that I could from Bob too. So
Yeah.
it's been a big part of my learning.
He invented the propeller. And I've said that in
That's right.
and I've said that in other said that in other
Yep.
podcasts. I guarantee next time he sees me, he's going to get his big old bear claws
Mitts
around
on
my
you.
neck. Yeah.
Yep.
But
Well,
yeah,
otherwise, man, a little bit of everybody. You know, guys like Billy Moore and Raymond Roberts and all the people from MTI, Nortec. You know, I usually touch base with them at least a couple times a week. So
Yeah.
you stay in touch, and they want to know where their props are at and how they're doing, how they're coming along, and at the same time, we're always trying new things and sending test props back and forth too. So
Yeah.
it's all people that I feel fortunate to know and be friends with at this point in the game. And man, I'm thankful that I never, I don't pick up the phone and say, oh, I have to talk to this guy today.
yeah.
It's always, hey man, how you doing? Casual conversations, like, yeah, just, text me where you want your prop, and we'll go from there. So it's been awesome getting to know everybody.
One thing you guys have always done is you don't overpromise. So I mean, it's like, yeah, I could probably get that done in 5 weeks, and then at 7 weeks is not that way. So that's one of the things that I can always count on when I tell a customer. They say it's going to be 8 weeks, and so it'll be around 8 weeks, and it always is. So that's awesome.
Realistic lead times. So Nick, I mean, outside of talking propellers all day long and racing, you've got a little one that is about to turn 2.
Yeah, my little boy Lincoln. He'll be 2 on August 17th, and he's just been fantastic. I mean, it's been great for me as a person to become a dad, and getting to spend time with him. And he loves boats and he loves the water. And I was a swimmer growing up my whole life, so seeing him want to jump in the little kiddie pool and in the lake at my grandpa's house and swim around has just been phenomenal. And I think back about how my dad really gave me my passion for boating. Being a dad now, I appreciate that so much more. So it's been pretty cool, and
that's awesome.
It's just such a fun age, man. He's running around. He can talk now, and he's still a little happy camper. He doesn't care what other people have to say or think about him. He's just always happy, and
that's cool.
It's been a lot of fun lately.
Yeah.
How has Sorry, go ahead, Myrick.
No, that's all right. I was just thinking about the same thing. Summer times with the kids in the lake and around the pool is like my favorite time too. I mean, there's not, whether it's, racing boats or whatever, I'd still rather just sit there on the dock and watch the little shitheads jump in the water.
That's cool. Nick, how has fatherhood changed you?
Man, I've become a lot more patient. I'll tell you that much. I mean, to find
Myrick
out I'm
has
being
it.
a father, finding out I'm being a father, to getting up at 3 a.m., 5 a.m. when he was really little, changing stinky diapers and all that stuff. I mean, it's humbling. It makes you
Yeah, it
patient.
is. Yeah.
Man, it's given me a lot of love. I mean, a little 2-year-old that's just happy to see his dad when you pick him up from daycare every day. I mean, there's nothing better than that. So
It's true.
makes me slow down a little bit. And, if I have a weekend where all I'm doing is just hanging out with him and running around the yard with him, man, I don't need to be doing anything else. I'm not sad about missing the sandbar and the river run or whatever's going on, as long as we're hanging out and having fun.
My regular little guy tells you he loves you like on
100
repeat
times
all
a
the time.
day.
Yeah, it's so awesome.
Especially when he's having fun. When I guarantee he's down there right now. Since he's not in here, he's on the dock and he's casting my rod. And if I go down there, he'll be like, "Love you, Dad." It's like, "Love you too, buddy." It's just one of those things.
So
and
Nick,
my oldest son, he just isn't even here right now. He's like, "Dad, can I go to Cody's?" That's what he said. And then they go ride jet skis and do 15-year-old stuff.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, you got the whole spectrum going, so it's good stuff. Nick, you're talking about possibly an extended stay at the shootout week this year. Is that going to come together?
Man, I hope so. I'd like to come down and just stay the whole week. We'll see what happens. My neighbor Neil Schneider and another one of my neighbors, Brett Gelbach, might try and hitch a ride with them, and I love hanging out with those guys too. So yeah, we'll see. I love going down to Lotto. It's the one event that I've never missed, even since I was an intern at Mercury. So
yeah,
special place in my heart for that event for sure.
Yeah, Neil's down a lot. I'm sure he'll be down here for the outboard fun run this weekend also, because that's coming up.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a blast. He's got a 360 performance powerboat, and he has a Mystic center console.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And he literally tries to rip the motors off of the Mystic center console. I mean, there's been times that come back like, "Neil." He's like, "Yeah, them outside motors are really taking a beating." Oh, jeez Louise. So, but he's a good dude. Got a giant heart.
Mm-hmm. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Nick, I hope you can work it out to be down there. We'll be down there for a good extended stay, and of course, Michael lives down there, so best week of the year for performance boating for sure. So, Nick, thank you for joining us. This hour has gone by really fast. Man, we could pick your brain for another hour if we needed to, but appreciate you joining us.
Needs to be more boat specific to each individual model.
Yeah, we do episodes like, okay, today we're doing V bottoms.
Yeah.
So
it's funny.
Nick, thank you so much.
And great talking as always.
Like always,
you guys take care.
Thanks, Nick. Talk to you later.
Anyway, this has been another episode of the Boats and Bros podcast. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe, like, rate, and share. And we'll be back with another episode real soon. Thanks, Nick. See you, bro.
Thank you, guys.
This podcast is powered by Speedboat Magazine. Subscribe now at speedboat.com for 9 power-packed current issues a year direct to your mailbox.